Hello and welcome to this clip taking you through how to do structure and bonding questions of the longer answer type. So hopefully what it will do is help you think about how to link some of your ideas and knowledge together so that you can construct your clear and confident answers to unstructured questions, which will be typically 4 marks or more. So let's have a think about some ideas first before we try a long answer question. So I've taken pairs of graphics that I've just found on the open internet and popped them on here because they actually link to each other. So if you look closely, you'll see that each pair of graphics contains a lattice, and it also contains a little bit of pictorial information about that lattice. So you've got a giant ionic lattice in sodium chloride, a giant metallic lattice, and a giant covalent lattice. So if you start by identifying the lattice you're dealing with, then you can talk about the bonds that are present. So let's pause and have a think about the key words that are in these bond definitions. So notice that electrostatic attraction comes up quite a lot. So in general, you find that electrostatic attractions are quite strong. So to break any of these 3 bonds takes quite a lot of energy. So in blue, I've now highlighted the things that are unique to that particular type of bond. In red, it's what they've got in common. In blue, it's what's unique to each individual one. So once you've actually established what the actual definition of the bond is, you can use aspects of that definition to try and explain the different properties you're being asked to write about. And there's not room on the screen, clearly, for me to go through that for every single property of every single picture that you see. But what we will do instead is have a look at an exam question that requires you to do this. So what it might be worth doing is grabbing a whiteboard and seeing if you can, in two minutes, shall we say, write down as many of the properties of the 3 different types of lattices as you can. Use bullet points. Don't try and write tons of stuff, just bullet points very quickly, but put in the key words. So stop the clip and then resume when you think you've done that. Take a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long you think, and then come back to it. So now we'll have a look at an exam question. So this is quite a sort of open-ended, unstructured question, because the question itself is actually only 1 sentence, but it's 7 marks on offer. So how could you decide what to write? So you can plan it out first of all by looking at the number of substances you've got to write about. There's only 2. So the next thing to do is to separate out what the bonding and the structure actually is. Then what you can do is think about how each of those can be used to explain the properties. So if we now move the page down a little bit, we can now try and plan out what we're going to say. So do 2 subheadings, that splits the job into 2 halves. So take one property at a time and explain it. So you said the delocalized electrons between layers can carry charge for graphite, and you've said that ions cannot move in a solid lattice, so cannot carry charge for sodium chloride. So dealing with the melting and boiling point, you have to talk about the strong electrostatic attractions or the bonds that are present. So here you're talking about bonding. In the first one with electrical conductivity, you're talking about structure. So you're dealing with the bonding and structure that are highlighted as we go along. So moving the page down a little bit so we can make a little bit more room, we can finally say something about solubility in water. So this time you can say the giant covalent structure is nonpolar, so the polar water molecules are not attracted to the carbon atoms, so the lattice doesn't dissolve. So what I've done is I've planned out what I was going to talk about and tried to think about how to mention bonding and structure as much as possible. What I then did is I took each of the individual properties in turn and then tried to explain what the table was telling me. by referring to bonding and structure. So thinking about where the marks might come in, the structure is used to explain the conductivity in each case. The bonding is used to explain the melting point. And the features of the structure in terms of its polarity, or the polarity of the solvent and how it might respond to that particular structure, that's used to explain whether it dissolves or not. So the final mark, the seventh mark, comes from how you organise your ideas and put them together. So starting with bonding, then structure, then properties, plan your ideas, link them together, use your keywords. If you follow that, you should be able to pick up the marks reasonably easily as you go through. So hopefully this has given you a couple of insights at least into how to approach a longer answer style question. The thing to do now obviously is to go and find some perhaps from your textbook or online and practice them and see how you match them up to the mark scheme. So for now, thanks for listening and see you soon.